Hello everyone, and welcome to the referees did it again to us weekly update on Monday, the 3rd of November 2025. It's Gary here again. Of course, I am kind of semi-joking, but not really, because that's kind of exactly what happened on the weekend there, and we'll get to that when we get to the game segment, of course. But yeah, just a bit of another up and down week for us with Rangers. I think, for me personally, with more positives than negatives, more progress, and of course more refereeing ridiculousness. And here's the thing, right? So I'm a coach. I'm a life leadership performance coach, and what I'll say to people in various forms over time is, what you're doing, your behaviour is, you're teaching people how to treat you. So we're teaching people how to treat us, and that's exactly what Rangers are doing, have done, with the refereeing community for what seems like decades of what do we call it, the dignified silence, acceptance of the honest mistakes that are made, and a general acquiescence to the blatant biases that exist in the game against us. And I just, something has to give here, folks. It really does. And I don't want us to be the ones that are constantly complaining all day, every day, about every single thing, every single game. But I do want the impactful stuff called out. It's just nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near good enough. And then here we are today. We wake up after another performance that has us questioning exactly what's going on, with that genuine sense of what if. What if the referee had have equalise things with the red card that should have been given, at least one of the red cards that should have been given. What if, actually, what if the referee hadn't have taken matters out of our own hands? Essentially, that's what it feels like, and it helps put the opposition in winning, or at least not losing positions. And I don't really need to go on about it too much, because you all seen what happened. You've probably seen many replays afterwards as well, and you would imagine the referee would be looking back on yesterday's game and absolutely cringing, or he's looking back and he's very proud of himself by doing what he thinks is right. But when you've got absolutely everyone in the world saying that the guy should be sent off for kicking a goalie in the head, and he doesn't even, he was struggling to even get out the yellow card for that, to be honest, it felt like at the time. I don't know. These referees, the referee is not supposed to be influencing the game. The referee is not supposed to be the star of the show and all that. I do genuinely subscribe to that. I do understand that. I do believe that. But I don't mind a wee bit of personality. I don't mind a wee bit of swagger. All we want is the referees to call the game correctly. That's it. Just call the game correctly. And then afterwards, you can look back and you can go, we've got the big ones right, a couple of wee ones that they got away with. You don't really know what's happening on the field in terms of people's attitude and the language they're using, and the way that they're actually doing things on the field level. But for the most part, I did my job and called the game as good as I possibly could have. And then you move on from there. These guys, it seems to be, I am each week talking, when it gets to big games, big domestic games for Rangers, about the referee. And I've said many times on this podcast, I don't want to do that. I do not want to do that. And you have to please trust me on that. I can't be bothered with this. I don't want to be talking about any of this sort of garbage. I want to be talking about how well we did or not, and then what my thoughts and summations were, and then move on from there. So yeah, not cool at all. So let's go on with the game segment as quickly as we can. And the first game was Wednesday's 1-0 win away at Hibs, which broke their record, or their undefeated home record. I think that was about a year or so they were undefeated. And it also broke our own, what was it? What did it end up being? 25 or 26 or 23, whatever the number was, games without a clean sheet away from home. So that was two good things that happened in that game. And at the very beginning of the game, there were some changes made by Danny Roll. It looked like he was having one eye on what was going to be happening on Sunday in the semi-final, of course. And so it was interesting for me, because one of the first chances, not long before we scored actually, was a big break up our right-hand side, which was not James Tavernier's fault. And every time as anything happens on the right hand side, there is a certain contingent of our fan base who just love to hate. And he would typically get it in the neck. So I was sitting with my niece Chloe watching the game, and I said, well, there's at least a positive from that. And it resulted in Jack Butland making a great save, actually. And then we had a great finish for Danilo, 2-2 for him at that particular point. Two great goals, two very, very difficult goals, actually. That he scored for the 2-2 games, and you probably seen the footage of his dad just in front of the Union Bears, just going berserk. I just love to see that family feel two things. Mikey Moore had a good chance. He's, I tell you what, I said a few pods ago that he came on and what did he do? I think he set up Tav for a goal, and it was that against Dundee United, I think it might have been. And I said that's the first and best thing that he's done in a Rangers shirt. I will absolutely eat my hat on this. He's an impact player for us now. He's actually playing very well, and you start to get that anticipation that something good's going to happen when he's on the pitch. So great for him. He had a chance which brought out a good save and a goalie. And I just think I said this last week. If we look at what advantages we have over players and over other teams, the players on the teams, and then we just use those advantages, we're very, very difficult to beat. And that's what you've seen in the second half yesterday. The first half, not so much. And I just, honestly, on the game, even when we were at our best, Hibs is a difficult place to go to. And it was a difficult game. I'm not saying it was easy. Obviously, it was just 1-0 at the end. But I really didn't feel under pressure at the end. I mean, at the end, I'm right up at the TV trying to head and kick every ball to make sure that nothing stupid happens at the end, as if I'm helping from 4,000 miles away, of course. But, I'm a bit nervy at the end. But then in genuine hindsight, in terms of chances absolutely created and the defensive lapses that we can be prone to, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that at all, which was great. So the positives was obviously the 3 points, and it moved us up to third in the table. We're back down to fourth now because there was domestic league games on the weekend, but we're only 5 points behind the mob from the East End, and we're now 14 points behind Hearts. They played on in the weekend as well, and someone gave them a good game last midweek as well. But I thought overall it was a really, really efficient performance. We did what we had to do. We took the chance that we needed to take to get the 3 points and then move on from there. The negatives, you know what? My big negative from this particular game is actually a summation of the whole season to this point, and it's basically the fact that we just don't have enough goals in this team, and that's the absolute scourge of our season. We're over a quarter of the way through the season now, and we've got a +2 goal difference. We've scored 12 goals in 10 games, and we've let 10 goals in. Sorry, so that's a +2. That seems unfathomable for Rangers. And here's another kicker: the only teams that have scored less goals than us in the league this year is St Mirren, Aberdeen, and Dundee. Everyone else has scored more goals than Rangers this year. So it's not difficult to know where the challenges lie, and it's not because of a lack of investment. I'm not going to go on about the 8 million for Chermiti or anything like that, but we've invested. I know that we let 50 plus goals go away last year with Dessers and whatnot, but we reinvested, and it's always going to be a gamble when a new player comes in or new players come in, but it's just not good enough. So we're not good enough. And actually, Danny Rowe said it after yesterday's game, didn't he? He says we need to be more ruthless at both ends of the pitch, and we just don't score enough at all. I mean, what is it? Maybe 4 goals in a couple of games, and one of them was against Alloa or something like that. So not good enough, and that's kind of disappointing stats there. In terms of the stats, we had 51% of the possession, 4 shots on goal with 3 on target, versus Hibs 6 shot on goal with 4 on target. And on the referee watch, it got to run about, it felt like the halfway point in the game, roughly. And I was thinking, you know what, John Beaton has actually been okay. Brandishin, he was refereeing the game. I thought he had control of the game, actually. And then he booked Magoma for the Hibs player running into him, and then he booked Cornelius for nothing. And Cornelius was saying, well, it was my first foul. And even when you're looking at it, it wasn't even a foul because he played the ball. And so for that, he's going to get a 5 out of 10. There's just this desperation to book Rangers players. And I don't know if there's some sort of incentive. I'm being a wee bit facetious here, of course. I mean, there's no qualms about booking Rangers players, let's just say that. And there seems to be a hesitation to book other teams' players. And I'm not 100% sure why that is. And back to kind of what I said at the top of the show today. Now, that's just what it is. Second game was, of course, yesterday's 3-1 defeat in the semi-final of the League Cup. And, We did. I thought that, as I mentioned there briefly earlier, I thought the first half from us was very poor. I was actually delighted going in at half time, just being the goal down there, because it was going to be tough for us, with obviously with the 10 men as well. It didn't help, but we did get away with one of the VAR calls early in the game for offside. And then we that miss for Chinmiti, and I have to say, initially I thought that was like miss of the century, miss of the season at least anyway. But it was so quick when you see it on replay and in real time in replay. It was so quick. He just took it naturally, and his positioning was just a fraction off, because it went past the post. The goalie was not getting that if it was on target, of course. And then we're in a situation where it looks really bad. And I wasn't as generous then as at the time as I am now, but fair's fair. It was just one of these things. It was a good run, it was a good move, and he did everything right apart from getting it on target, unfortunately. And I know that's what he's supposed to be doing, but it was just the way the passage of play unfolded for me that was it. We lose a goal from a corner, which is just pathetic. I mean, actually the 3 goals we lost yesterday, dire, absolutely dire. We get Asgard red carded 38, 39 minutes. As soon as I seen it, the very moment I seen it, I was like, that's a red. And he never meant it, and it did hurt the boy as well, which is not what we're looking for. And then at that point, one of our more influential players going off, it becomes a very, very difficult task, And then you've got that boy, is it Kenny, who got the red card? I mean, he left his foot in there. He had an opportunity to take his foot out, and he left it in. And then it's just the latest episode of a red card that should have been given, but wasn't given as per usual, and it's just not good enough. We had a much better second half. We get the penalty around about, 80 odd minutes, something 81, something like that. And to have expertly, I mean, he's just brilliant at these penalties, I have to say. The goalie goes the right way. There's no chance he's getting that, to the way that the speed and the direction that it was hit. And the one thing I like about Tav actually is he's putting himself out there. It seems to be more now. I don't know if it's a communication strategy from the club or the team or the manager maybe, but he's coming out and he's been a bit more talkative. He turned 34 last week, and I wonder if he's now just saying, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. He's still very polite about it. He's not quite as into the digs as we would be, but we're not the captain, and we're, everybody's style is different and such. But I do like to see it. He's calling things out, and talking us through some of the points of the game that we normally wouldn't have access to in terms of his thoughts and stuff. And then for the second goal, initially I thought that Butland made a complete mess of it, because the very first time it was hit, it looked like it went straight through him. But then we really, as a team, made a mess of the second one. I thought we didn't shut McGregor down. We know McGregor's got a shot from outside the goal. We didn't shut him down, put him under any pressure whatsoever. And then Suter ducked for some reason, so Butland had a split second to see it, and it was flying. This thing, I think there was originally I thought that it might have deflected off a Suter. I don't think it did. From the angles that I seen it, it didn't look like it did, but he ducked for some reason. Well, not for some reason. He ducked because he didn't want to get hit in the face with the ball. That's ultimately why he ducked. I mean, I do that when I'm playing, and I can't help it. It's a natural reaction. I'm not a professional football player, and it's one of these things that doesn't look good from a defender perspective, to be honest. And yeah, so Butland gets a bit of a pass on that. Gassama, I mean, the chances we had yesterday, folks, I mean, the chances we had yesterday, we should have won that game. And we don't have that ruthless mindset where we get that opportunity and then we're going to take it right away. Overthinking, trying to overdo it and such. Gassama had a great chance, made a mess of it. And then we're just sleeping, essentially, for their third goal. A ball over, super easy. The guy just taps it in. I think at that point, probably a bit of fatigue and tiredness were coming in, because we're in extra time at this point. We've been playing the majority of the game with all the time, with the extra time added in there, with 10 men against our fiercest rivals, and I know they were there for the taking, and I know that, that we could and should have had a better opportunity to put ourselves in a position to win that game, but tiredness is a thing as well, and I think that's what it is. And I think, my talk there about we don't have enough goals in the team is really just exactly the factor that the point I'm making in today's pod is we don't have enough goals in the team. We're not ruthless enough. We're nowhere near good enough yet, but we can see some positive signs. Because you look at Danny Rowe's record, he's got 2 defeats and 2 wins in his record now. So, I mean, it's not brilliant. He's not setting a heather on fire, but, there's progress that we're seeing there. There's tactical nous and awareness in there that feels like we've got a manager here, like a proper head coach, I guess we should call it, that's going to give us some good stuff. So we'll see how that goes. Not a lot, really, when you get beat by them in the semi-final. I think the way that we plugged away, the way that we kept going after going down to the 10 men, that our performance in the second half and real parts of extra time, I thought were good, solid. We didn't let them run over us, and there was an opportunity, when they're down to 10 men, that things are going to go completely away from you, and we didn't let that happen, which was really good. And Tav's penalty, creating the chances even as we're missing them, is something, at least it gives us something to shout about, So that's, I guess that's a positive. We just need someone to put them away, and then it's even better. The negatives, obviously the goals we lost, I think especially the first two, completely avoidable. We're just not, and we're not making teams work too hard for their goals. That's really it for me, and I hate that. I don't like that at all. It's just one of these things that we're just going to have to continue to work on and continue to try and make better things happen, and make sure that people really genuinely work hard for their goals, make them think. So in terms of the stats from the Rangers website, it said with 49% possession, 8 shots with 4 on target. That feels about right. Versus 19 shots and 10 on target. I have to say, it didn't feel like that. I need to go back and properly watch it again. I have zero intention of going back and watching it again, to be perfectly honest, but it didn't feel like they had, almost 20 shots with half of those on target. But another stat from the website is they had double the amount of fouls that we had. Double the amount of fouls. And I'll just get to that right now, where referee Nick Walsh had a disaster of a day. He had a day to forget, 100%. He did, VAR worked until it didn't. And then you've got this persistent fouling from that clown Maeda that just goes unpunished until, he gets the token yellow card at the end when it's a bit too late to actually influence the game. You've got the Buckland incident where it could have been really seriously hurt. I talked about that last week. You might remember if you listened last week, where these referees' decisions are going to get someone hurt. And that could have been Jack Buckland seriously injured by that. And it's just a bit of a free kick, like, a literal, free hit, I should say, maybe not a free kick because I'll get confused with the rules of the game then, but it's just it's a free hit for everybody else that, like, we're just going to keep fouling, and then we'll see what sort of mood the referee's in, but they're usually pretty lenient against this mob, and then see what happens, and it's just, oh my God. So, yeah, it's going to get someone injured very, very seriously at some point, and I hope that he looks back on that, and you'll get that referee show that's on Sky Sports, and Willie Collum will apologise, and it'll be one of these things where we have to get better and all that sort of thing. I hope that Nick Walsh had a sleepless night last night. I hope that he looks at that again and says, I'll never make those mistakes again. And I hope that he says, it's maybe time for me to actually have some integrity, because it looks like he's cheating. That's what it looks like to me when you see these results. When you see these incidents and the results of the incidents happening in real time, it feels like cheating, and I can't imagine it is, but when it happens so often and so regularly against the same teams, there's something going down here. There's something more systemic. There's something more, more ingrained into these referees for them to see something completely differently than anyone else sees. So he gets a 1 out of 10. A 1 out of 10 is what he gets for that. Games this week, we have a big game on Thursday in the Europa League. We need to start picking up points in Europe here. This is just getting awful. Challenge is that Roma are 1 point behind in Serie A, and they're in 4th spot, but only 1 point behind top spot. So they're having quite the season, and that's not very much of a mirror to our season. Unfortunately, we're up and down like a yo-yo these days, but that's from Thursday, the 6th of November. 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. UK. We're back to now being the standard amount of time that we typically are here in North America. And then we follow that up with a league game away to Dundee on Sunday, the 9th of November, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 3 p.m. kickoff. And we just need to keep picking up points. Just keep picking up points and see what happens. Everyone's expecting the Hearts bubble to burst, myself included, by the way. And I haven't seen much of them play. I only seen them play against us earlier in the season when we got cheated out of that game and that result by, you guessed it, refereeing decisions. So other than that, they're still kind of plugging away here and seeing what they do, and then we'll just keep ourselves at least interested, On the shout-outs for this year, actually, the shout-outs for this week, let me just do this week, we did have a 25-year anniversary party for the Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary on the weekend there. I was 21 years in Canada on Halloween there. I moved over in 2004 Halloween. So I've been at the club for quite a long time. I've been president for a very, very long time. Very, very proud of the club and absolutely delighted to still get to go and do this. Dan and Arlen and all the guys there that allow us access to the pub, allow me to serve some beers at the pub, trust us with that. We had a brilliant party there on Saturday afternoon. It was just a brilliant time. When I was going down, I'm like, I don't know how many people are going to show up. There could be 6, there could be 10, there could be 20. We ended up with about 40 there. It was just so great to see some of the old faces, some people that typically don't come too often these days, but make an effort to come down because they've played their part in the club and really helped us. So it was brilliant. And we did put the Oasis song on, which didn't seem to absolutely jazz everyone up, but we put the Oasis concert on, I should say, and it was good to have that in the background. Then we headed up the road for the baseball, and the baseball, the LA Dodgers broke a nation's hearts on Saturday night with their World Series win. That's back-to-back World Series for the Dodgers, and it was the ending was really weird. Now at that point, admittedly, I had a few beers by that point, but it didn't look like the game was actually going to end at that point. And then they did this double play, and then the game is over, and it's weird because it's happened in Toronto, and then all the fans are like, "Oh, okay, I guess we're going home." And then you've got this wee pocket of Dodgers fans who are celebrating. But I know that the Campbell clan in Orange County, they are big Dodgers fans. So congratulations to them. I was keeping in touch with the boys on Saturday night there, and I'm sure they're delighted. And great progress and great imagination captured by Toronto. So that was good fun. And one thing I was actually remiss to mention last week, and I kind of kicked myself a wee bit after the pod, was a week past on Sunday was Walter Smith's 4-year anniversary of passing. I literally cannot believe it. It's 4 years since that happened, and I recorded the podcast afterwards when we did the kind of the book of memoriam sort of thing on our website, and that was a heartbreaking episode to do. Yeah, so I gave our best wishes to Ethel and family from everyone here at NARSA, just as a courtesy, and I let her know that we're thinking about her. But yeah, 4 years since the great man himself passed on. Just a reminder that Amanda and Jason Jr. Ross are running the London Marathon in April in support of and on behalf of the Royal British Legion. And the Culture Weekend is coming up in a couple of weeks here in Melbourne City Loyal, November 21st to 22nd. Ian Ferguson, Gary Stevens, Stuart Monroe, boats, gala dinner, all that sort of stuff. I'm very, very tired this morning. I had my nephew in town here for 5 days last week, or 4 days, I guess, in total, and I am tired this morning. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. So the thought of going on a booze cruise and the thought of a whole bunch of partying right now on this Monday morning makes me kind of want to vomit in my mouth a wee bit, to be honest. But if I recorded this podcast on Thursday, I would be like, oh, you know what, maybe that sounds like a great thing. I wish I could afford to go. So there you go. In terms of the convention update, I'm delighted to tell you that as of today, it's 219 days or 31 weeks until Nashville 2026. That's going to be the 11th to the 14th of June. Just a reminder, it is the World Cup opening weekend, and our format, the property that we're going to be staying at, the line-up, the entertainment, the itinerary and the pricing is all a wee bit TBD at this point. I've got a meeting this afternoon with Brian Campbell and Alan McWatt just to go through some of the fine-tuning on some of the properties that have been presented to us through the tourist information place down in Nashville. And hopefully by this time next week, we would have a signed contract with a place and the ability to be able to tell you exactly where we're going to be and what that looks like. Once we know the property, we can start to build the itinerary around what that looks like. So yeah, so Destination NARSA 2026, Nashville, really, really looking forward to that. In terms of communications for this week, the Gers guide wasn't put up. Typically after a defeat, there's usually a wee bit of a funk, we could say, in the communication. So I don't think there'll be much in the way of showing the highlights of yesterday's game for both the men's and the women's team. Then tomorrow will be the loan review. I imagine Wednesday will be the Roma presser. Thursday will be the Roma game. Friday will be the presser for the Dundee game. And then Dundee, we'll have the Dundee game there. And then the Rangers women's team are playing Partick Thistle in the Scottish Cup. So they get a wee break from league action on Sunday as well. And the women's team were beat 3-2 by Hearts yesterday. And it seems like the women's team are having a season like the men's team. Nothing is going right. It's just not working out for them. So that's too bad. They're 9 points off a top spot now, which is in that league that's massive. That's a big lead there. So that's too bad. 3-0 down. Actually 3-1 down at half time. And then just they caught it back, but 3-0 down at one point in the game, which was kind of difficult as well. Just another reminder, please, if you can, yourself, your friends, family, colleagues, neighbours, siblings, cousins, all that sort of thing, if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would really, really, really help us out. We are going to be getting some guests on here soon. I did mention last week that this was the last busy week, and then I'll try and do it from next week onwards. I'm going to be interviewing Stevie Jukes from St. Phoenix probably over the next few days, and we'll see what that looks like. It's going to be for my own podcast on my business side, but it will definitely be available to everyone from NARSA as well. They've embarked upon a world tour, and they're going to Nashville, no less, and I think that's in February time or something like that. So that's great for them. It'd be good to see them over here stateside. They're not coming to Canada, unfortunately, but they're doing America and Europe and such like that. So that'll be a bit fun. And just a reminder here about the Eras, the Captain's Night. There's an evening with Barry Ferguson on December the 19th. And that's at Edmiston House. And the tickets are £40. But it says an evening with Barry Ferguson and special guests is going to be there. So the Rangers are doing their own Eras tour just to try and combat what Taylor Swift did over the planet over the last couple of, I guess maybe a few years, how long it lasted as well. So there you go, my friends. That will do it for this week. I wanted to get through this one pretty quickly today because we all know what happened. We all feel what happened, and we all seen what happened, and we just need to try get and be better as we go forward. So thank you, as always, for taking the time to listen. Please do share it with at least one other person that you think might enjoy it. And we have another big week here. We have no choice. We need to keep going and keep looking for the positives and keep giving ourselves an opportunity to actually do some good things. And then we'll see what happens. We'll see what comes up from there. So until this time next week, please do take care of yourself, and I will chat to you then. Follow.